Those who say, remind you, the whole discussion we're having here is seemingly with a razor. Scissors would be okay to cut on the body, to cut the hair, but again, Lamais said that's not true if you look at a Shulchan Aruch, so it's probably different. But in terms of the Gemara, it seems like at this point in the Gemara we're still discussing specifically with a razor. Amar of Chia Barabba, Amar of Yochanan. Hamavir beis hashechi ubeis ha'erva loke mishum lo yilbash gever simlas isha. That if somebody goes ahead, we're at the top. If somebody goes ahead and removes the hair from the underarms, they remove the hair from the base of erva, their pubic hair, again seemingly with a razor or ke'ein tar, something like a razor, as sharp as a razor, gets close to the skin. So they're over the isser and they're loke because of lo yilbash gever simlas isha. You're dressing like a woman. You're doing woman-like things. But we see over here that the Brisa tells us that if you take off your seir, it's not midivrei Torah, it's only midivrei sofrim. So what's the problem? The problem is that if it's only midivrei sofrim, so why are you loke? Seemingly loke is not malchus d'Rabbanan, it's seemingly malchus d'Oraisa. Why would you get malchus d'Oraisa for something that's only midivrei sofrim? Who de'amar ki haitana de Tanya, because he holds like the other Tanya, who says Hamavir beis hashechi ubeis erva hareze over mishum lo yilbash gever simlas isha. That's how he holds, and therefore in Achanami you would get loke. And what about the Meisvei, which says it's only midivrei sofrim? That's the Tanakama, we'll call it. The Tanakama, Hai lo yilbash gever my darish bei. So if in fact he's holding that removing the hair is only a midrabanan, what does he do with the pasuk that says lo yilbash gever simlas isha? It seems to say it's a deraisa. The Tanakama, Hai lo yilbash gever my darish bei mi ba'yleicha the Tanya. He uses it for something else, because the pasuk says lo yiyeh kli gever alisha v'lo yilbash gever simlas isha. Just like a man should not wear the simlas isha, a woman should not wear the kli gever. Why? Ki to'avas Hashem elokecha kol se'ela. My tam and lomar, what's it teaching us? Im shelo yilbash ish simlas isha ve'isha simlas ish. If it's just saying that we shouldn't cross-dress, harei ne'amar to'eva hi. It says that it's a to'eva in the pasuk. It can't be ve'ein kan to'eva. It can't be that cross-dressing is a to'eva. There's things that are, listen, you shouldn't do it. But there's a lot worse things, especially in 2015, than cross-dressing. Why is he going to call that a to'eva? Ela shelo yilbash ish simlash isha v'yeshe bein hanashim v'isha simlash ish v'teshe bein hanashim. Rather, what does it mean? It means that a man should not wear the simla of an isha and sit with the woman, and a woman should not wear the simla of a man and sit with the men. What does that mean? Rashi, the Rosh says on the left side, a few lines up, kedei liz no simayan, so that she should be able to have znus with them. So that's what the pasuk is coming to tell us. Don't cross-dress, not just to cross-dress, don't cross-dress with the intention to have zus with the other gender. That's a to'eva, but that's not what it's referring to when it says lo yilbash gever simlas. Not referring to a mavir beis hashechi u beis ha'erva. It's referring to the other. It's referring to cross-dressing in order to have zinus. The other opinion will say, no, that's what it's referring to, and therefore you see that it's a deraisa. But if you hold it's derabanan, so the pasuk's referring to cross-dressing with the intent of znus, not referring to ma'avir beis hashechi beis erva, and therefore it's only midivrei sofrim. Good? Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Omer, minayin shelo teitze isha b'kli zayin l'milchama. We learned something else from this pasuk. Where do we know that a woman should not go with weaponry to war? Tamalomer leyekli gever alisha. So what does v'lo yilbash gever simlas isha mean? Shelo yitakein ish b'tikune isha. He should not, as the Rosh says, perish v'lo yichol v'lo yifarches v'lo yavor beis hashechi beis ha'erva. So this opinion seems to be holding, not like the Tanakhama, this opinion seems to be holding, it's adding something, that you shouldn't go ahead and yitakein ish b'tikune isha, you shouldn't wear perfume and makeup and eyeliner and stuff, but it also seems to be adding the fact that beis hashechi beis ha'erva, it seems to be agreeing with Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan that it would be a deraisa from lo yilbash gever simlas isha, at least the way that the Rosh is learning it, because the Rosh is saying that it includes the lo yavor beis hashechi u beis ha'erva. So you have two opinions. One of them says it's deraisa from this pasuk. One of them says it's derabanan. The one who says it's derabanan learns something else from this pasuk, cross-dressing with the intent of znus, and doesn't learn these things from this pasuk. Amar of Nachman bin Nazir mutter v'lasilchas hakavase. By a Nazir it's mutter. What's mutter? Seemingly, as the Rosh says, the kevan de megaleach korosho biyom kolos niziraso leka tikunisha bavaris beis hashechi beis ha'erva v'les hilchasa kavase. He says once you're going, you can go all out. Once you're shaving the head, you can shave the rest of the body. So Lamaisa, we say less hilchas hakavasi, and it's not true. This wouldn't be a good thing for a swimmer, right? For swimmers, the swimmers have an issue because the swimmers actually, I don't know what they do, but it seems like even the base erva, the swimmers, as far as I understand, shave their entire body to resist any of the friction and so they don't have any resistance in the water. And according to what we're saying, it would be a problem. Amrulei Rabbanan. I never asked my father Mark Spitz what he did, but okay, new. Amrulei Rabbanan Rabbi Shimon bar Abba. Chazinan le Rabbi Yochanan de Lesley. So Rabbanan says to Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, I see that Rabbi Yochanan doesn't have this. What does Rabbi Yochanan not have? So we see Rashi says Seyar beveis hashechi. He doesn't have any Seyar. So they're checking out the Rabbi. Somehow they saw the Rabbi and they saw that he didn't have any arm. He didn't have any hair underneath his arm or underneath in the maybe in the mikvah, maybe not. I don't know. Beis erva. Amar lahon machmas zikna nishu. No, don't worry. He's not shaving it. They fall out when you get old. Hahudis chayiv nagida kamei diravami. So there was another story. There was somebody who was found guilty of malchus in the court of Ravami, seemingly, as we'll see from the Gemara, malchus midirabanan. Igle beis hashechi chazid lo megalechem. And when they give him malchus, I guess they took off his clothing at some point, and they saw that he doesn't shave his body. Amar lahon Ravami shivkua, leave him. Din min chaver yahu. He must be a good person. He must be a Talmid Chacham. He knows that it's usher to shave his armpit. The Rishonim explained that when he saw that the person kept halacha, so he decided not to punish him for his other crime. Again, he wasn't getting malchus for this. He was getting malchus for something else. But we said, we're going to have rachmanas on him. He's a good boy. Otherwise, he did one thing wrong, but we're not going to give him malchus. When they saw that he keeps halacha, he doesn't shave his beis hashechi, beis erva, so we're not going to give him malchus. It's interesting because the Gemara seems to be inferring that it was very common back then that people would do that, or else what would be the big deal? If nobody shaved it, so then it would be, okay, so then why is this guy such a good guy for not shaving? Sounds like the fact that they looked and he didn't shave, it was like sort of like a sign that, oh, you must be in the V'haya Machanech HaKadosh, because most people, seemingly, the way the Gemara seems to be implying, most people wouldn't necessarily have that.
Just let him off or whatever he did.
Sounds like you let him off. Yeah. Sounds like you let him off for the malchus.
He thought he suffered enough by going through whatever he did.
That maybe. Not a bad thing. Okay. Next time you get in trouble, just show them that you have hair under your arm, and
show me armpit.
You might get into more trouble, but you could try it. Never hurts to try. Ba'minei Rav me Rabbi Chia. Mahu legaleach, says the Rosh. Mahu legaleach b'tar. What about shaving one's body with a tar? Now, we basically have been assuming the whole time. This is the way the Rosh learns. Others learn that he's asking about his scissors, and this is where the machlokas comes from, if you could even use his scissors. But it sounds like after all is said and done, Rav me Rabbi Chia is asking, L'maiseh ma'u legaleach, can you use a tar to shave your body? And he said, obviously no, Amarlei Aser. As we've been saying all along, it's Aser. Amarlei v'hakha gadol. But when it becomes so long, it's uncomfortable, and if you don't cut it, so you're not cutting it for purposes of beautifying yourself. All the proofs you were bringing me was lo yilbash gever simlas isha. You can't be like a woman. They do it for beautiful purposes because they don't want to have hair. They don't want to have hair on their legs, under their arms, in the base erva. Lamaisa, when it gets long and it's uncomfortable, we're not doing it to beautify ourselves. Amalei bar pachdi. He says beno shel Talmid Chacham, says the Rashi. Zman yeshlo kol zman shehu gadol nosha. Very interesting. He's saying gul yeshlo. It's interesting. It says Zman Yeshlo. Rashi says Gul Yeshlo. La'oser Seyar. Kevan shegadal yoser mimasha adam yachol esavlo nosher me'alav. Because Baruch Hu made it that when your hair becomes too long under your arms and in the base erva, so it starts falling out by itself. Very interesting. Ba minei Rav mi Rabbi Chia. So Rav asked Rabbi Chia, Mahu lachuch. Can you go ahead and scratch? And what does that mean, let's scratch? Rashi says lachuch bevigdo. Can you go ahead and scratch? Well, Rashi says bebigdo, but it's really not at that point bebigdo. Lachach, what would you go and scratch? Says Rashi, keneged beis hashach yidei shetiye no sher al yidei chichach. So we said you can't remove it. Seemingly you can't remove it with a tar. The Gemara seems to be learning at this point that you can't. So ma'u lachach. I'm sorry. Rashi says beveis hashach biyado k'dei lahaver es haseyar. Can you go ahead and scratch? Can you actually remove it with your hand? Very common. Can you remove the hair with your hand? Amar le aser. Wow, very interesting. It's also even to use your hand. Bevigdo mahu. What about bevigdo? Can you scratch with your bigadim in order to, I guess, scratch, but also have it remove some of the hair? And then amarlei mutter. So to use your bigadim and not to use your hands directly, that would be okay. Ikadiyami. Others say bamine betfila bevigdo mahu. And others say, what about using your bigadim betfila? and that would not be necessarily a problem with removing hair. That would be a problem of touching hair. Amalei aser, it's aser. V'las hilchos hakavase, but the halacha is not like him because since you're not touching the basar, as Rashi says, it's mutter. So l'maisa, it sounds like you can't remove hair from the base of shechi, base of erva. You definitely can't use a ta'ar. You can't use a razor. L'maisa, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, it seems like you can't even use a scissor. The way the Gemara here seems to be learning, according to one amount of numbers, that you couldn't even use your hands. And it comes out that in terms of removing it or to scratch with a baguette, that would be okay, seemingly. And even to do it during davening, that would be okay as well. Again, seemingly not in terms of removing the hair, but in terms of getting your hands dirty.
Why there as opposed to left of your feet?
It would be both.
In your chest,
It's the base hashachi, the base erva, because that's where the women shave in order to not be manly, I guess we would say. Mishnah. It's all because lo yilbash, as the Gemara said in the beginning, lo yilbash ish simlas isha. Okay, Mishnah. Really want to skip this Mishnah because it's complicated, but we'll go do it anyway. Says the Mishnah. I want to skip to the next Mishnah, but it's even harder than this Mishnah. So we're going to stop before the next Mishnah on the bottom. Let's just call it a day. What? It's true. We're just holding. We'll hold like the Gra. We'll just, Zok the Mishnah. Meis echad mehen. So we have to go back. So for those who are learning Daf Yomi, so you have a Mishnah on 57a. Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. So I learned the Mishnah last night on 57a. So I just want to chazer what that Mishnah says, and then we'll plug it into this Mishnah here. The Mishnah on 57. Does somebody here want to tell us the Mishnah on 57a? Anybody? Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. So the Mishnah says that witnesses know that one of the Nazirim became Tameh. There were two Nazirs, and one of them became Tameh. And the Gemara is assuming that they're 30-day periods, and they started on the same day. And one of the Nazirs became Tameh Meis, but he doesn't know which one is Tameh Meis. So you have two Nazirs who are Safek Tameh Meis. So what was the suggestion that we said that they do over there? So both of them need to shave their head at the conclusion of the 30 days, right? Assuming, again, the Gemara is coming, they both took 30-day Naziruses, they both go ahead and they became Tameh, let's just say day number 1, so now they have to go, and they have to wait at the conclusion of the 30 days, and they need to sprinkle, even though usually it could be done after 7 days, they need to wait, because again, they might not have been a Tameh Meis, they might have been a regular Nazir, so they have to wait 30 days. So you both shave your head at the conclusion of the 30 days, and you go ahead and you sprinkle. So you're shaving at the end of 30 days in case you were a Nazir Tahor. You're sprinkling in case you were a Nazir Tameh. The Tahor one is shaving for the concluding of the Nazirus. The Tameh one, who really could have done it after 7 days but couldn't because he might be a real Nazir, is shaving now after 30 so that he could restart his Nazirus. So you have one guy who's done with his Nazirus and one guy now who needs to restart another 30 days. What do they do, says the Mishnah? So they jointly bring 2 sets of sacrifices. They bring one set of sacrifices for the concluding of the Nazir, and they bring one set of sacrifices for restarting the Nazirus. Again, whoever is restarting his Nazirus will have BAYT with those sacrifices, and they do each one conditionally, and whoever's finishing his Nazirus, because again, they just counted 30 days, so one of them is done, one of them has to restart now. Again, he could have restarted after 7, but he couldn't because he might have been the one who was really a Nazir the whole time. And now he goes ahead and he can use those sacrifices for the Nazir who becomes Tameh, who has to bring sacrifices too, and shave his head, and now he starts the 30 days again. And now both of them have to go ahead and count another 30 days. So it's 60 days total, because in case they're the Tameh one. Because if they were the Tameh one, if they were the Tar one, then they finished after 30. But they might have been the Tameh one who needed to restart after 30. Now they count another 30, both of them. So at the end of 60 days, they've both been Yotzei everything. They both might have been the Tameh one, they both might have been the Tar one, but they finished their Tameh period. The first 30 days, again, it could have been 7, but they needed to stretch out in 30 in case they were the real Nazir Tahor, in which case they couldn't shave their head, and they shouldn't be bringing these korbanos. And then after the last 30 days, even if they were the Tameh one in the first 30, now they fulfill their Naziros with the last 30, and then they bring the korbanos at the end of the 60. What do they have to bring? Not the korbanos for the Tameh Naziros, because they already brought those at the end of the 30. That covered whichever one of them was Tameh in the first 30. At the end of the 60, they bring the concluding korbanos for Nazir Tahor, and now everybody is fine. Okay. One other, what? The Chiddush is, that's the Mishnah on Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Now that's Chazara. If you have the Chazar, now we can do it another 99 times. You have 101 times and you remember it. Now just for the purposes of a Korban, so a Nazir Tahor brings Shlomim Chatas Ola, Nazir Tameh brings Asham Chatas Ola. They all bring Chatas Ola. And a Mitzorah brings Asham Chatas Ola. So a Mitzorah and a Nazir Tameh bring the same types of things. Asham chatas ola. The difference is that the chatas of the Nazir Tameh is a bird and the chatas of a Mitzorah is a lamb. The ola of a Nazir Tameh is a bird and the ola of a Mitzorah is a lamb. And a Nazir Tar also brings a chatas and an ola, but it's a lamb and a lamb, and the shlamim is a ram. Fine. Mishnah. Meis echad mehen. You got that? One of the Safek Nazirs died. So now you have a little bit of a problem. Again, when you have two Safek Nazirs, so we do the process. First 30 days, they both go, they both do, they shave the head at the end of 30. Then we said the Torah one's done, the Torah one keeps going. They jointly bring the two sets of Korbanos, and they count another 30. They jointly bring the set of Korbanos for a Nazir Torah, and now they're done. Meish echad mehen. Now, the guy comes and says, one of you is Tameh. I don't know which one. The other guy is so distraught over the news that he might have become Tameh, he drops dead. So now you have one guy who might be Tameh, might not be Tameh. What's the problem? He can't go ahead and bring any joint Korbanos. Well, why doesn't he just go through the process? Because it's not so pasha. Maybe he's going to be bringing Korbanos that he shouldn't be bringing. As we'll see, there's different discussions here. So the question is, what does he do? So one of those Safek Nazirs died. Now you only left one guy hanging. It wasn't very nice of him to die. He left the other guy hanging. What does the other guy do now? So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Yivakesh echad min hashuk. You put an ad in the newspaper, and you say, I'm looking for a volunteer to replace the guy who just died. Sheyidor kenegdo Nazir. Now, the guy's going to become a Nazir. Ve'omer. And he's going to say, now again, this guy's definitely a Nazir. And this guy should really be a Nazir for only 30 days, Tam Naziris. But now he's going to need a volunteer to become a Nazir for 60 days, because he's going to make the thing contingent. What does he need that for? Because he needs to, in case the Korbanos that he's bringing is not for him, so now they can be for this volunteer.
This is all happening on the first day that it became a
Seemingly. Again, the Rishonim don't speak about it, but that's how I understood it. They're all happening on the first day. There's a lot happening on that first day. They become Nazirim. The guy, one of them, the guy comes and says, one of you is Tameh. The guy is distraught and dies. They put in the Facebook thing, and you get another guy to go ahead and to volunteer right away. Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Yivakesh echad min hashuk sheyidor kenegdo b'nazir. So a guy comes from the shuk and says, I want to be a Nazir. Ve'omer, and then the original guy, again, let's just call me the original guy who was one of the two Nazirim who might be Tameh. So what do I say? Im Tameh hayisi harei ata Nazir miyad. Now, the volunteer doesn't just become a Nazir right away. If I'm Tameh, then you're a Nazir right away. Vim tar hayisi, and if I've been tar the whole time, then harei ata Nazir achar shloshim yom. Then I don't want you to be a Nazir now, because I want to be the Nazir who is going to be tar after 30 days for those Korbanos. But now, since we're going to have to bring Korbanos at the end of another 30 days, I want you to start your Naziris at the end of my 30. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'll stay here with you along the way. You'll become the Nazir at the end of 30, and then at the end of 60, you'll be the Nazir. V'ata Nazir achar shloshim yom. So we're setting it up in a very similar way to the two Safek Nazirs. One of them, Lamaisa, if you think about it and you simplify it, one of them will be a Nazir for the first 30 days, either him or the volunteer, and the other one will be a Nazir for the next 30 days. V'sofrin shloshim yom, and they count 30 days, u'mevi'in korban tuma ve'korban tara. And at the end of those 30 days, so they jointly bring the two sets of sacrifices like they did when the other guy was alive. Ve'omer, and what does this guy say? The Safek Tameh says, Imanihu hatameh korban tuma sheli ve'korban tara shalcha. If I'm the Tameh one, so then obviously the set of sacrifices for the Tameh person are going to be for me. And the korban tara shalcha, why? Because if I'm the Tameh one, then what are you? Then that means you became Nazir on day number 1, and now at the end of 30, your Naziris is up. Right? The guy said to him, if I'm the Tameh one now, you become the Nazir right away, and then you're done at the end of 30. If I'm the Tahar one now, then your Naziris will only kick in at the end of 30. So we don't know, but we're saying we're bringing two sets of Korbanos. If the Tameh Korbanos are for me, and now I'm done with my Tameh Naziris, which means that today I'll start what? I'll start my 30-day count, my new 30-day count, in case I'm the one that actually became Tameh, which the witness said. So the Maisa, the Korban Tumar Shali, and the Korban Tara Shalcha. V'imanihu ha-tahor. And if I'm the Tahor one, so then the Korban Tara Shali, then I'm done with my Naziris period. Again, he's not going to be able to finish, because he might not be the Tahor one. But if I'm the Tahor one, then the Korban Tahor Shali to finish my Naziris period. The Korban Tuma Bisafik. And the Korban Tuma is Bisafik. Why is it Bisafik? Because as opposed to 57a, Nun Zayin and Aleph, it's possible that neither one of them is Tameh. Over there, one of them was definitely Tameh. So the Korban Tuma wasn't Bisafik, it was just Bisafik which one of them needed it. Over here, the Korban Tuma in general might be Bisafik, because if the original guy who's still alive, if he's not Tameh, then the new guy's not Tameh. So then that Korban Tumah is Besavik. But Lamaisa, we're doing the same thing. We're bringing two sets of Korbanos, and I'm basically saying if the Korban Taharos are supposed to be for me, then it's for me. If the Korban Tumahs are supposed to be for me, then it's for me. V'sofrim shloshim yom. and they count 30 days. Mevi'in korban tara. Then we bring the korban tara. Va'omer. Now what do we say? Imani hatamei kuma tuma sheli v'korban tara shalcha. So if I'm the tamei one all along, so then the korban tuma, which we brought 30 days ago, was for me. And now the korban tara, because again at the end of 60, what are they bringing? They're just bringing tara one. So now the korban tara at the end of 60 is for me. Vizet korban tarasi now. Vimanihu atar. If I was the tara one, then what? Then after the original 30, the korban tara ones were for me, and the korban tuma ones weren't needed because you weren't tamei. But lamaisa, at the end of 60, the korban tara ones are for you because that means you became a Nazir on day number 31. Korban tara shaliva korban tuma besafek vizehu korban tara secha. It's not that complicated if you think about it. I'm trying to simplify it, but that's basically what he's doing. He's setting up the case, so it's exactly the same. All the korbanos are conditional. At the end of 30, the korban tara is either for me. If it's for me, then the korban tuma wasn't necessary and it's besafek. And if I was the tamei one, then the korban tumas at the end of 30 are for me. Nothing was for you because, and then the korban tara at the end of 30 was for you because the Maisa you were 30. So again, I need to be choshesh both ways. I was possibly tamei, you definitely weren't tamei, but you might be a Nazir. You're either a Nazir from 1 to 30 and not from 31 to 60, and the opposite would be for me. Amalo benzoma. So benzoma says what we're all thinking. So that's how Rabbi Yeshua suggests you do it. Lamaisa, if you have the case where one of them dies, you just get a volunteer from the shuk, and you basically have him replace the guy who was besafek tar, the other guy, your other partner in crime, and then you go through the same process, and again, with the only difference being that when you bring the korban tuma, you don't say this is the korban tuma for one of us, you say this is the korban tuma besafek, because lamaisa, we might not need it all because he might have been the one, the guy who died. Amar lo benzoma, come on. Umi shomea lo sheyidor kenegdo benazir. Do you actually think that you're going to go ahead and find somebody to come and volunteer? He says it's not practical. Nobody on the street is going to volunteer. Because again, what are you asking somebody to volunteer? You're asking somebody to volunteer for 60 days of straight Naziris. He needs to be the first 30 in case I was tamei during the 30, so that he could be the korban taras, or he has to be the last 30. Says the Gemara, Ela mevi chata sa'of. No. Rather, we don't need any volunteers from the street. What do you do after 30 days? Maybe this one guy brings the chata sa'of. Now, who brings the chata sa'of? Again, chata sa'of is for Nazir tamei. The olas behema. Who brings an olas behema? A Nazir tahor. So you bring one korban in case you're a Nazir tamei. One korban in case you're a Nazir tahor. What's that going to allow you to do? That's going to allow you to shave your head, because once you bring one korban, you can shave your head. So again, we're not getting a volunteer from the street. I'm going to bring one korban in case I'm tamei, one korban which would represent in case I'm tahor. Now I could go ahead and shave my head. Again, I might be tamei, I might be tahor. V'omer, what do I say? Im tamei hayisi. If I was tamei, if I'm the one that became tamei, then hachatas michubasi. Then the chatas sa'of that I'm bringing, which is one of the 3 korbanos for Nazir tamei, that's going to fulfill my chova to go ahead and bring a korban at the end of my 30-day period, which is what it is now. V'ha'ola nadava, and the ola, which is for a Nazir tahor, that should be a nadava, because I'm not finishing my Nazir tahor state. I'm just finishing my 30 days of tamei. Again, assuming that I was tamei. V'im tara, you see, if I've been tar the entire time for these entire 30 days, and the guy who died is the guy who was tamei, mace, then ha'ola mechubasi, then count the ola to be my korban as the end of my Nazir tahara. V'hachatas misafek, and the chatas just count as a safek, again, not as my tuma, because if I'm not tamei, that means that he was the guy that was tamei, and then I don't need to bring the chatas at all. It's interesting, I learned that the Gemara could have seemingly said v'hachatas as a nedava, but I don't know if you can bring the chatas as a nedava, seemingly not. But Lamaisa, the guy's not off the hook. So he brought the korban, he could shave his head, but he's not off the hook because he might have in fact been the tamei one, and that means what? Now he needs to be 30 days of Nazir tahor. Now he says, V'sofer shloshim yom. Now he counts another 30 days. Umevi korban tahara. And at the end of the 30, he brings all the korbanos tahara. What does he say at the end of the 30? Well, he needs to say he might have already brought his korban tahara at the end of the first 30. So what does he say at the end of the last 30? Again, it's not that complicated. V'omer im tamei hayisi ha'ola harishona nedava v'zuchova. If I was tamei, so then like I said 30 days ago, at the end of the first 30, then the first ola was what? Was a nedava, because I didn't need it, because that was for Nazir tahor and I was tamei at the time. Vizu chova. And now these korban taharas are going to be my chova, because if I was tamei in the first 30, that means the second 30 I was tahor, and now I'm done with my nazirus. Vim tar hayisi, and if I was tar for the first 30 days, and at the end of the first 30 days when I brought that ola, the ola behema that was for a Nazir tahor, so then it fulfilled my obligation for Nazir tahor. Then ha'ola rishona was chova, and now what are all these korbanos of tahor that I'm bringing? Vizu nedava. These are nedavas. Vizu shar korbani. And these are the rest of my korbanos. Very interesting. What's he doing here? Again, what did he do over there? At the end of the first 30, so he brought one for Nazir Tameh and one for Nazir Tahor. So again, if he was in fact Tameh at the time, that means he fulfilled his obligation for the Tumah with one thing, and now at the end of the 30, the second 30, he brings it 3 more, and now he fulfills his obligation for the Tahor ones. It seems like by a Tameh Nazir, if you bring just one animal, you fulfilled your obligation for the Korbanos. Not true by a Nazir Tahor. So what does he do now? Now the guy's stuck, because what did he do? If he's in fact Tahor, so let's say he was Tahor after the first 30, what did he bring? He only brought one Korban at the end of the 30. He brought the Olas Behema. He didn't bring the Chatas Behema and the Shlamim. He didn't bring the Chatas Lamb and the Shlamim Ram. But he brought one for the Tahora and one for the Tmeis. So now he's saying, if I was in fact Tahora, so I brought one animal, the other animal that I brought would be a Chatas Misafik, fine, that's gone. At the end of the second 30, he's bringing another 3 Korbanos of Tahora for the Nazir Tahor. What's he saying? So he's saying here that what? If I was Tahor, then the first Ola that I brought counted for my Tahora, because again, I needed to start the Tahora process then, because officially I was Tahor at that time. The Ola that I'm bringing now, because again, I'm bringing 3 more Korbanos now. Ola, Chat, Shlamim. The Ola that I'm bringing now, I was already Yotze the Ola for Nazir Tahora over there. This will be a Nadava. The Chatas and the Shlamim that I'm bringing now will be the Chatas and the Shlamim that I should have brought at the end of the first 30, again, assuming that the case is that I was Tahor after the first 30. So basically what he's doing is, in case he was Tahor, he brought 1 Korban after the 30, but now he's bringing the extra 2 Korbanos after the additional 30. What's the problem with that? Well, you might have a problem with saying that you're bringing your Korbanos in Chatzain, in different parts. That's the only problem the Gemara would have.
You know, a problem also with the fact that shame, in other words, whether this thing is a Chatzos or whether this thing is...
well, he brought it on condition. He brought it conditionally. Right? He brought it when he brought it. So he said, Im Tameh Hagisi, if I'm Tameh, then the Chata should be Mechuvasi and the Ola should be a Nedava.
Either way.
At the time that he brought it, he was covered. If I'm in fact Tameh, then what I'm bringing here, this Chata should be the Chatas that I need to bring as a Nazir Tameh. If I'm Tahor, then the Chata should just be Misafek, and the Ola that I'm bringing should be the Ola of my Chova. That's why everything was. You have to review this Gemara. I mean, I could say it outside 10 times, but you have to review it inside. But basically what he's doing is he's making each thing conditional, and therefore he's covering himself. And the solution that Ben Zoma is offering is that at least this way I could even make it conditional as being the only person. The way we learned it on Zayin and Aleph, it was all conditional, but it was assuming that both people were here. So it was that these korbanos in front of us either belong to me, if I'm the Tamei one, or they belong to you, if you're the Tamei one, or these korbanos in front of us, because they were basically bringing everything, and they were just saying, whoever's Tamei, whoever's Tar is going to grab whatever ones they're supposed to be getting. God should know who's who. But at the end of the day over here, he's sort of bringing everything and saying only the ones that I need should apply, and the ones that I don't need should be in a Nadava.
So who's paying for this? I mean, in other words, if the mace obligated himself to bring the korbanos with him, is his Yorshim paying for this korban?
No, they would say it's not our problem. You want to get out. You want to get. They was his problem, but if you want to get out of your Naziris now, I don't know, but seemingly if he wants to get out of his Naziris now, so Lamaisa, this guy has no choice but to bring it. Yeah. So says Rabbi Yoshua, okay, you didn't like my suggestion because you said it's not practical to put an ad in Facebook. Well, I don't like your suggestion either, says Rabbi Yoshua. Nim says that maybe korbanos of lechatzaim. Because the Maisa he's breaking up his korbanos. Yes, if he was in fact tahor the whole time, so then yes, he brought one korban at the end of the first 30, but the Maisa he's not bringing the other 2 till the end of the 30. So he's bringing his korbanos lechatzaim. Says the Gemara, and if in fact he was Tameh in the beginning and now he's Tar, so now he's only bringing 2. Because we're saying that the third one is really from before. So what do? Says Rabbi Yeshua, Nim says that maybe korbanos of lechatzayim. It's bringing lechatzayim and that's a problem. Says the Gemara, Valhodulo chachamim leben zoma. No, the chachamim were moded to ben zoma, as Rashi says, she'ein choshenim hevi korbanos of lechatzayim. The third wide line. We're not choshesh if you bring korbanos lechatzayim. And even if we did have a problem with that, it would be the best of our options because there's a better. We'd rather deal with that problem than deal with the fact you're never going to find somebody on Facebook to go ahead and to volunteer. So the Maisa seems to come out with the Gemara that if you have a case, if this ever happens to you, where you're a Nazir and there's another guy who's a Nazir, and a guy comes and says one of you is Tamei, we don't know which one. So before you put the ad on Facebook, we should probably go like Ben Zoma, and you should just go ahead and bring all these korbanos lechatzayin. You should bring these korbanos in piecemeal and bring them all conditionally on the fact that you might have been tahor the first 30, or you might have been tamei the first 30. Zok the Gemara, let's just say the Gemara, and then we'll stop at the Mishnah. V'leisei, says the Gemara, v'leisei, kolomar, says Rashi, ma teshuva heishiv Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi leben Zoma, shezem mevi korbanos of lechatzayin, yavi lechatzayin u'ma bekach. So it says, what's the problem with bringing them piecemeal? We say we don't pass like Rabbi Yoshua, because it's the best of the two evils is to say that, he says we're not choshesh. But Lamaisa, why did he answer him that we're not choshesh? Rashi tells us that we said we're not choshesh, but he should have answered him, what are you talking about? Who says we're choshesh for bringing korbanos lechatzayim? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, lo Amar Rabbi Yoshua el lechadeid ba es hatalmidim. Basically, what was Rabbi Yeshua talking about? Lamaisa, we're not worried for chatzayim. How did Rabbi Yeshua not know that? Says Amar Yeshua Mashmuel, lo Amar Rabbi Yeshua el lechadeid ba es hatalmidim. Now, the way the Gemara seems to be learning is that the way I'm understanding it is that Rabbi Yeshua somehow realized, I guess with the back and forth, I think Rabbi Yeshua realized and admitted that his suggestion is not practical. So it sounds like Rabbi Yeshua realized that Ben Zoma's suggestion was a good one. So why did he attack Ben Zoma? He wasn't attacking him. He was just attacking him to see if his students, i.e. Rabbi Yeshua's students, would be able to figure out the solution. That means Rabbi Yeshua knew that Ben Zoma's suggestion was a good suggestion. That you should go ahead and the one guy should do everything and he should do it as conditional. So why did Rabbi Yeshua say, B'lamaising and bringing lechatzam? Because he was hoping that his students who were listening would have said, what are you talking about, Rabbi? There's nothing wrong with bringing chatzam. He was basically testing his students. Says the Gemara, Amar of Nachman. That's what I always say when I read the wrong Rashi or I do some, or I'm in the wrong line of the Gemara. I always say I just wanted to make sure you're paying attention. So that's what he did. That's where I got it from. Amar of Nachman, my liavile Rabbi Yoshua ledaike velo lisru. So what does this mean? So within Rabbi Yoshua, the question is, within Rabbi Yoshua, what will Rabbi Yoshua do with the intestines so that they don't go ahead and they don't spoil? What does it mean within Rabbi Yeshua? What are you going to do with the intestines so that they don't spoil? Well, Nim says that maybe Koras of the time. What's the problem? So Rabbi Yeshua says that you go ahead and you don't do everything together. You do the 30 and then you go ahead and you do it at the end of 30. So he suggests that both of them share. Again, you're bringing another guy off the street. According to Ben Zoma, it's not a problem because you only have one guy. According to Rabbi Yeshua, you have two different guys. So he suggests that both of them should share the korbanos at the end. According to Ben Zoma, only one guy's here because we never got another guy. So if you have two guys that are sharing the korbanos at the end, so what's going to happen? Since the korbanos can't be waived until both of them have shaved their head, so what's going to happen? We're worried that it might spoil before they take the korbanos and shake them and burn them. Ben Zoma, again, only requires one person, the original guy, to bring the offerings. But within Rabbi Yoshua, we're going to have a little bit of problem. Again, it doesn't seem like the Gemara is bothered by it too much because it sounds like we already said that Rabbi Yoshua agrees that Ben Zoma's way is the way to do it. But we're just pointing out that within Rabbi Yoshua, you might have a problem practically that if you have two guys bringing the korbanos at the end, the korbanos tar at the end, and they're doing them conditionally, but now each guy needs to go ahead and shave his head, and each guy needs to go ahead and wave the korban in case, again, he is the one who's finishing his Nazirus now and didn't finish it after the first 30 days. You're going to have a problem because by the time they shave their heads and they both shake the korbanos, so especially the parts of the korban that are near the intestines, which spoil very easily, they're going to be spoiled before you have the chance to even go ahead and shake them. Shraga.